Alrighty, y'all. What's going on? Welcome back to the Sit Down. This is episode 10.3, and as you know, I'm here with my good friend now, Mel, and our repeat offender, Yona. And like I prefaced last video, we're going to talk about some of the hypocrisies that we sort of saw in the debate, and we're going to kind of let that be the guide, because then we're going to get into the whole pro-life, pro-choice. We'll get into the whole fracking. We'll get into the whole, we'll let science be the deciding factor. But Mel, you started off because you started to really sort of touch on that last video. So kind of go deeper into that, sort of expand on that a little bit between the whole pro-life, pro-choice, because I'm definitely an outsider looking in. I don't think any man really has any pure say in this whole pro-life, pro-choice. Because I keep thinking back to that Tupac song. What is it? Is it
Dear Mama? Or is
Yeah.
it Brenda Got a Baby? I think it's Dear Mama.
I think it's Dear Mama, and it might be Changes, where he talks about,
It is.
because we all came from a woman, got a name from a woman, and I came from a woman.
Yep.
I wonder why we take from a woman, why we rape our woman, do we hate our woman? You know what I'm saying? Like,
That
so
gave me goosebumps.
but for real though.
It's true.
So kind of go into that, Mel, a little bit.
You know, so we were speaking a little bit about how the pro-life versus pro-choice debate, they always try to bring religion into this. And I have a big problem with that, because I am pro-choice, but doesn't necessarily mean that I am pro-abortion, right? I do believe I think that women are intelligent creatures. I think that we are smart enough to make decisions that best suit us. And I'm very pro-choice because of the hypocrisy behind the pro-life stance, right? One of the biggest issues that I have is, okay, we want to talk about religion, right? And the people say pro-life, well, God gave us free will. And with free will, that means that he trusts us enough to make our own decisions. In order for good to exist, we need evil to exist, right?
Sure.
The earliest stories in the Bible are when Eve ate the forbidden fruit. He gave us free will.
Yep.
So when we touch on the religious part, that bothers me. Then you have a lot of pro-lifers who are so anti-Planned Parenthood, but have no idea why Planned Parenthood was even started, right? So it's not like Planned Parenthood is just to get people abortion. Planned Parenthood is educating people on safe sex.
Sure.
Planned Parenthood is giving teenage girls who might be scared to tell their parents that they're having sex, they're giving them birth control, right? So at the same token, a lot of pro-lifers, a lot of, they don't believe in welfare, they don't believe in Planned Parenthood, but what pro-choice people or Planned Parenthood are trying to do is give us preventative measures, right? They're giving out condoms, they're giving out birth control, they're giving sex education to let you know, right? So people always want to go with one part of the debate. Also, if we sit here and bring children into this world, but then we don't help people to protect these children and to feed these children, are you really pro-life, or are you just pro-birth? Are you pro-controlling? Are you pro-controlling people? Right? So I think there's a lot of holes in the pro-life debate, and I think that's what's most infuriating. And I think that when people use religion to have a debate, I think it's very condescending, because that's suggesting that anybody who is pro-choice does not know the Bible. I'm a very spiritual woman, and I just believe that people are smart enough to make the decisions for themselves. When Roe vs. Wade came into place, that did not start the murdering of thousands of people. It started saving lives, because before abortion was legal in our country, people were going to back butcher shops and they were still getting abortions done. Right? So it does not mean that if we reverse Roe vs. Wade that we're going to end abortions. No, people are still going to find a way to abort children, to get rid of it. Another thing is when you're trying to shut down places like Planned Parenthood, or men specifically, trying to make decisions about birth control, that is infuriating, because they don't know what women use birth control for. It's not always to prevent birth. Some women have irregular cycles. Some women have ovarian cysts. There's so many medical reasons that women take for hormonal treatment, that they take birth control. So when you have men, and this is another reason why representation matters,
Yep.
when you have men making a decision about our lives, how about we start talking about men taking birth control? Because a man can have 365 children in 1 year, while a woman can only have one child a year, or two if you're having multiples, right? It's the very misogynistic way of looking at things.
Absolutely. And you have people that are pro-life, but yet, not to go that far deep, but we've all heard of Plan B before.
Right. Oh, love that one.
They're okay with Plan B. I was just having this conversation last week. So you're okay with Plan B, however, you're anti-abortion and so pro-life and so concerned about this fetus, zygote, whatever you want to call it, So I don't know. It just kind of puts me at odds.
And my question is, what's the difference?
Right.
What's the difference? You know, from what I understand, right? Again, outside looking in.
Right.
Whether you take Plan B or you get a formal abortion, the whole format is to abort the uterine wall.
Absolutely.
To stop that egg from embedding, or if it has embedded, to remove from the body to stop pregnancy.
Absolutely.
What's the difference?
And if the Christian or the pro-life debate is that life starts at conception, then Plan B is the exact same thing as having an abortion.
Yeah.
And what was even more infuriating about it is when people try to use pro-life to align with their Christian values and also align with their political views on things. There's so many closeted women who are Republicans or pro-life who have had abortions. I went to college with some of those women who the minute, I had a friend who wrote that. She said, when I got pregnant, she said I had 2 roommates who were Republicans and were supposedly pro-life, but they both said they would help me get an abortion. The hypocrisy. I've seen it time and time again. So you're right, Plan B is the same thing as an abortion. I've had the same exact debate with people in the past too, who they say, well, I'm really anti-abortion. I said, but you've taken plenty of Plan B. Is the pot calling the kettle black?
And let's even dive deeper. Have you ever used a condom before?
Right. Right.
Seriously.
If it's God's will to procreate, then why are you using a condom?
Hello.
So yeah, I agree.
And and it's hard too, because like you, Mel, and I'm sure you as well, Yona. It's you see both sides of it, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's irresponsible for young adults or older adults, right, to have sex, to procreate, right, and not be willing to accept the repercussions of said action, right?
Absolutely.
So in that aspect, I don't like it, right? Because it takes a certain level of accountability and responsibility to have a child. I don't have one yet, but I'm preparing myself for one in the future. And you see it, you talk to people who have it. Yeah, it changes your life, of course.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why are we judging the same people that were irresponsible? They can't have an abortion compared to the woman that was raped in the back alley and now has to carry a kid that they don't ever want to see. Because it reminds them of the most traumatic experience they ever had in their life.
And you know what? Another thing that people also don't realize, again, why men should not be making decisions for women, is that some women who actually desperately want to have children, they have to have an abortion because their bodies are rejecting it, or they're having a topical pregnancy and they have to take a pill to abort the child because it's in their tooth and it can kill them. So people, you're so pro-life, but whose life are you pro? The zygote, the fetus, or mine, right? So people sit here and they talk on what they don't know.
Absolutely.
And it's so funny too, because Mel, when you were talking there, it really made me think, who are you pro-life for?
Right.
Are you pro-life for the person that's suffering, or are you pro-life for your moral beliefs, for your ego, for what you want to be represented as to the public eye?
You know what? And I think sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No.
I think it's a perfect segue actually to talk about another topic that's super hypocritical in this country, and that's our Second Amendment right. The NRA is very loud about it's our Second Amendment right to bear arms. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. But how come when a black person is bearing arms, we don't get the same kind of backup? We don't get the same kind of treatment. We've seen people like Philando Castro, who was pulled over and he openly said, "Hey, I have a concealed weapon. I'm allowed to carry," and he was still shot. We saw it happen here with Corey Jones here in Palm Beach County. He had his carry permit. And this is a church-going person. How come the NRA wasn't loud about that? So it's just the hypocrisy. It's like, so we're not on equal playing fields. It's it's our rights matter when you're the right complexion, right? Yeah. It's there's so much hypocrisy, so many holes in all these debates.
And the thing that keeps ringing in my head every time I hear somebody talk about something like this, the thing that keeps coming up in my head is that, how would you feel, say somebody is pro-life, right? Or, pro-choice. Either one. Say I'm pro-life, yeah, you shouldn't have an abortion, XYZ. Say your wife got raped in the back alley, she's carrying a child. Would you want that kid?
Right.
What would happen if it was you? It's easy to talk about a situation that you're not involved in, but everything changes now when you're involved in a situation.
Right.
You're gonna change your tune really quick. And I think that's part of the problem with anything that we talk about. Again, we had talked about it in the second episode and even in the first episode. Perspective is king.
Okay,
People
yeah.
only want to function under the perspective that best serves them in the moment.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the problem is that my perspective is different than yours, Mel, which is different than yours, Yona. And if I can't see your perspective, Mel, and then I can't help you, I can only contradict. I can only go against what you say. And when that's the case, there's never any solution. There's only more problems.
Yeah, Yona and I were just actually kind of discussing that about, sometimes the most infuriating part of conversation is when, okay, I can understand if you don't know, ignorance is lack of knowledge. I can understand if you don't know, but once I've educated you and I've shown you the proof and I've given you a clear case, right, and you still want to believe that, now ignorance is bliss. Now you're choosing to be that, right? And that's what I think of where you kept mentioning perspective is king. And if you can't listen to someone's perspective and maybe take something from it, I'm not saying you have to agree with them, but if you can't understand where someone's coming from, then it's kind of like, well, you don't really want to understand. You want to live in your ignorance.
And that's the thing too. I had referenced this in one of my episodes a while back. I was with Mitch. This is my first ever episode. I talked about this snow globe mentality that a lot of people have nowadays. A snow globe mentality, right? Everybody just wants to function under their own individual snow globe, right? Everything is perfect. It's like a Truman Show, right? You live in a bubble. And as long as nothing touches the walls of that snow globe, as long as nothing endangers your perfect society, your perfect envisionment of what your life looks like, everything is cool. But the second you start to get some resistance, you see a crack in that snow globe, now we're in trouble, right? Yeah. And the human nature is people are going to always be resistant to change. People don't want to change. They want to stay comfortable.
That's true.
And the unfortunate reality is that comfortability nowadays looks in the forms of what we had just talked about. I'm pro-life, but I don't see that. The things that I support completely contradict what I'm saying.
Right.
Oh, I believe in guns, but no, you can't carry guns the same as I can.
Right.
No, you can't do that.
Right.
But now that we're talking about abolishing AR-15s because they're not necessary, oh, no, we can't do that now. Why? Because you have an AR-15.
Right. Right.
What are we talking about here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What are we doing? It's
and this is why you see our country at the point that it's at. This is why we're so divided. Because people are everyone wants to shout and they want to get their point across, but nobody wants to listen to the other side. There's no longer conversations going on to learn. It's just conversations to prove your point. You can always tell when somebody is. There was a difference between I hear you and I listen, right? When you hear somebody, you can hear the noise coming. When you listen, you can repeat back what that person said. So if what I'm understanding that you're saying is, right, and people don't do that enough anymore, people are so ready to answer the question before you're even done. They're so ready to rebuttal.
They're just ready to rebuttal and go against what you're saying a lot of times. So.
Right. And me for example, I'd be a hypocrite to say that I've never fallen victim to that.
Sure.
Sometimes you're you're so passionate about your beliefs and your stance on something, and you're like, how could this person believe that? And you're going crazy. So I think that just part of growth is to be able to acknowledge our weaknesses.
And you gotta want to understand as well too.
Yes,
I think there's a lot of people who just
choice.
are comfortable, they're living their lives, they like how it is, and they don't want to change.
Right.
They don't want to adjust. They don't want to make room for anybody else.
Because it goes back to what we just mentioned about the whole snow globe mentality.
Yes, and that's the thing too. Everything in life is a choice, right? It's a choice to be educated, just like it's a choice to be ignorant.
Right.
I think a lot of people have the mentality, oh, you're smart, so you know everything. No. I had to go do my research. I had to bust my ass to get this information, to become educated.
Yeah.
You have the same ability as I do, it's just I chose to and you didn't. And it kind of goes along with the whole same thing as, this whole kind of topic that we're talking about in terms of perspective, right? Hearing and listening. It's a choice to listen to somebody.
Right.
It's a choice.
Absolutely.
Just like it's a choice to see both sides of an argument. Just like it's a choice to understand that, hey, your opinions might be different than mine, but hey, we can still be on the same page. Just like it's a choice to understand that, hey, Mel, your opinions are really important to you, but you understand, Mel, that your opinions are not the most important opinions.
Amen.
They're the most important opinions to you.
Right.
Mine are different. But we understand that because we got educated, because we made a choice.
Yeah, and our opinions are usually based off of our experiences, and no one person's experience are going to be the same, right? And that's where people lose focus. That we've had different walks of life, we have different experiences, and if you want to grow, like you said, we have the same option to educate ourselves. The information's out there. Another thing that people don't realize is if you don't know something, it's okay to say you don't know. Absolutely. It's okay to shut up and listen, right? I have a 10-year-old, and so when he doesn't know anything, I tell him all the time, Papi, humble yourself. Do you not know what I'm saying? Or if I'm reprimanding him, or if we're having a conversation, some days I have to slow it down and then I have to ask him, do you know what such and such means? And then he'll try to tell me, and he does, and I elaborate for him, right? And I'm not saying we need to be condescending and speak to our colleagues and our friends as a child, but we overthink that, we overlook sometimes that they might not understand where we're coming from. If I don't know a topic, if I don't know something about a topic, I stay relatively quiet. There are certain things that you know, this year especially with so much controversy going on, for the most part I was pretty well versed, and there were certain things that I didn't know. So you did not see me post it, and I'll give you an example, because I was like, let me stay quiet, because I don't want to just jump on a bandwagon that I'm not informed on. And one of those was about defunding the police. You know, I didn't really understand in the beginning, so I stayed quiet about it. You know, I fully understand it now. I agree with a lot of points to it. Do I agree with all of it fully? Probably not. But you would never see, nobody could ever say they saw me post on my social media about defunding the police, ever. Have you ever seen it? Then you follow me on social media. Why? Because I'm humble enough to know when to shut up.
But it also didn't sound 100% like a good idea. That's as basic as I could put it. Defunding the police, I don't know. Then I saw a couple of things about reallocating funds. I was like, okay, well that's a little different. But
you just made a very good point. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because the exact same thing. Defunding the police is
I was like, wait.
Right, and that feels like, to anybody that's in law enforcement or has law enforcement in their family, it feels like a direct attack on them.
Yes.
Right.
So the word defunding, I don't think was a very smart move on the culture, on the movement's part, because it does sound like an attack. But reallocating the funds is exactly that. It is defunding the police.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It's a great argument to be had, but again, like I said, I'll kind of stay in the background on that.
Yeah.
You're gonna see a couple boxes in a little circle. So over here, this is gonna be a playlist with a whole bunch of other videos that I posted. If you like what you saw so far from the sit down, you'll be able to keep up with everything right there. Right here is gonna be the video to my previous video. And then right here, click that circle there. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell icon to make sure you get all the updates whenever I come out with some new content. I appreciate the support. Let's keep the train going. Here we go.